as I've had Tourette's, I've had several concerns about like what these tics, like these repeated tics, would do to me. Um, um, I wondered, for example, like I still have the tic of like jerking my head like this. So I've wondered like how it would affect my muscles, or like how, if like, I don't know, my brain would like be banging around too much or something like that. I've had thoughts like that have worried me. But I have had these sorts of tics for many years, and I haven't personally noticed anything. So perhaps I'm just a little bit too OCD or paranoid about it, which would be understandable. Wondering like, is this going to happen if anyway. Also, throughout high school especially, I was very heavily involved in the arts. In orchestra, I played cello. I was in musicals. I delivered a bunch of speeches and presentations and performances. And of course, I wondered if my tics would affect my performances. If I'm playing, like there was a play where I was an old man, for example, and I thought it would be weird if like suddenly, like for no reason, I had these tics on stage. I felt the same way about like when I was playing cello, because if I like tense my arm while I'm playing cello, that would affect my. I had concerns about that, but thankfully I soon noticed that while I'm performing, I am focused on the performance. I'm focused on playing the music the right way. I'm focused on playing the character the right way, saying the line. I'm focused on being in character, being involved in the moment, and in those moments, I wasn't doing any tics. And so that problem seemed to kind of resolve itself. And so that's when I learned that not only when I'm relaxed do the tics not happen, but also when I'm focused or concentrating, or kind of like in the moment of a performance, for example. And so I'm grateful that my Tourette syndrome has not affected me that way. I would imagine that someone involved in sports and athletic activities, I have never been very athletic, but I would imagine someone involved in athletic abilities would also experience similar things, being just as focused like in baseball, focusing on the hitting the ball, things like that. So I'm glad about that. The only other thing I can think of that I think especially parents and friends would be concerned about is like a child with Tourette's being made fun of. I think I mentioned a little bit about this earlier, but yeah, it's depending on the type of kids that depending on the type of other children that they might hang out with, then kids that notice someone ticking may like think that like they're weird, or that that's like you're silly, or or that there's something wrong with them or something like that. And like I said, I have been made fun of for my tics, but I also kind of was. I also grew up as a kid who was kind of like in his own world as well. Like I even sometimes like to reenact action scenes in my mind during recess, and I kind of like did the actions anyway or whatever. So I kind of like grew up caring more about like how I felt than what other kids felt. Although every once in a while there would be someone who would just like taunt me relentlessly about it, or like copy me or whatever. And it would bug me, it would bother me. In which case I knew that there were counselors, there were teachers I could talk to. Some kids may not be so lucky though, and so I think that is something to keep in mind, and that probably the most important thing with someone who is growing up with Tourette syndrome is to know that be your own person. You're a person with Tourette syndrome. You can do what you can to suppress them and not let it control your life at all. I do remember, one other thing. I wondered towards the end of high school, I'd made lots of good friends in theater and orchestra and whatever, and I never really talked about my Tourette syndrome with friends at all. None of these high school friends ever asked me about them, about my tics at all, which after a while I thought that's interesting. Like, it's like I don't have tics at all. It's like the way they're treating me, which is great. But I wondered if they had noticed it. And so I approached one of my best friends at the time. And I told him about my Tourette syndrome, and he was impressed and appreciated that I was like very open and honest with him. But he told me what he told me. I remember he said that, yeah, I guess I noticed them like when we first met, but after a while I just don't notice them anymore. And so, and there have been times when just like acquaintances have noticed like that I have them, and they'd wonder like, what's up with him, whatever. But again, that hasn't really bothered me that much. As long as the people I care about still treat me the same way, is fine. So yeah, just like with many other things, if you have Tourette syndrome, it's really all about accepting yourself, doing what you can to fix any real problems and issues, and just relaxing when you need to relax and focus when you need to focus.